It is a pleasure welcoming you to today's interesting and educative platform, Literature Hub 247, where literature is discussed every hour. This video is about an important topic in literature, that is prose. An important topic in literature, prose or novel. We have three major types of literature, that is drama, prose, and poetry. So, in this video, we want to discuss the definition of prose, the types of prose, the forms of prose, and the narrative techniques, that is, the different narrative techniques we can use in prose. Let's go into the classroom. Now, if we are asked what is a prose, what are we going to say? Now let's look at this. Prose is an ordinary, non-metrical form of written or spoken language. Prose is an ordinary, non-metrical form of written or spoken language. What do we mean by this? Let's expatiate further. It is said to be ordinary because direct language is used in writing it compared to other genres of literature. Direct and simple language. If it is compared with especially poem, we see that the language used in writing prose is more direct than that of poem. That is why we say that it is an ordinary, non-metrical form of written or spoken language. That means it is written in an ordinary, direct language. At least you can read a prose text and understand it than interpretation of a poem. That is what you are saying here. It is not metrical, meaning that it is not musical. That is when you say it is not metrical, it means that it is not musical. It doesn't share any quality with music. It can be in the form of writing or speaking language. Examples of prose are Second Class Citizen by Buchi Emecheta, Invisible Man by Ralph Essing, Redemption Road, also in the New Syllables by Emma Shaw, and some other novels there. Now let's come down to the types of prose. Types of prose. Now, before we can classify the category a prose belongs, there are certain things we need to consider. In classifying prose, three factors have to be considered. These are the theme, form or style, and the content of the text. That is the content of the text. Or you can categorize that. This prose is this prose is that. Now, let's go to the types of prose. The first one is satirical prose. Satirical prose or novel. These are novels that identify a societal indiscipline, exposes and attacks and ridicules. The societal indiscipline may be political, religious, or otherwise. When satire ridicules indiscipline, it gives room for ways by which the indiscipline might be corrected. Example of satire is George Orwell's Animal Farm. That is an example of a satirical novel. Is George Orwell Animal Farm. The next one is epistolary prose. Epistolary prose. Now, from the meaning of epistle means letter. It means letter. Now, let's look at the explanation. It is a novel in which the narrative is carried out by letters. A novel in which the narrative is carried out by letter, written by one or more characters in the novel, or the author himself or herself. Examples are So Long a Letter by Mariam Abba and A Bundle of Letters by Henry James. The next one is biographical prose or novel. Biographical prose or novel. It is a novel written on the life history, experiences, achievements, and failures of particular individuals, written by another person, e.g. Awo by Omobori Owo, that is, one is written by Omobori Owo and it is written on the life history of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. So it titles it Awo by Omobori Owo. Next one is autobiographical prose. Autobiographical prose. This is related to life history of somebody also, but in a different way. These are novels that contain the self-written life history, experiences, achievements, and failures of the author. Example is The Kaduna Boy, written by Bola Ige. Autobiography is self-written life history. When you are writing your own life history, you are writing an autobiography. That is why it is different from biography. Biography is written by another person, or another person's life history. Biographical and autobiographical novels are classified as non-fiction. We are still going to explain this. They are classified as non-fiction because the events written there they happen to somebody somewhere at a particular time. Next one is romance novel. It is a novel about love between parties. It expresses the ups and downs that accompany love. Finally states the final triumph and unity that resulted from the union. We also have science fiction. Science fiction. Scientific and technological ideas are expressed in imaginative ways. This type of novel discusses science and technological related topics, that is, the themes are science and technological related. Next one is historical novel or prose. These novels are written about the wars, migration, and revolution of a particular set of people. Mention is made of important people and places in the history of the people through the creation of characters and places that represent these people and places, e.g. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. That's an example of historical prose. The next one is crime and detectives. Crime and detectives. These novels are usually about theft, murder, terrorism, arson, kidnapping, and the likes. A crime is committed at the beginning of the novel, and the rest part of the novel is devoted to detecting the cause of the crime. The detectives are sent out to look out for culprits. The culprits are detected and brought to book finally in the novel. The James Hadley Chase series are good examples. We have The Word in My Pocket. The Future is a Patient Boy. Those are examples of crime and detective novels. The last but not the least is Gothic novel. Gothic novel. This is also referred to as Gothic horror in the 20th century. It is a type of novel that involves horror, death, and at times romance. An example is Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto. The Castle of Otranto, written in 1764, and Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. These are good examples of Gothic novel. Wuthering Heights is in 2021 to 25 syllabus. So those are the types of prose. Now, these types of prose can also be categorized into forms. So this takes us to the forms of prose. The types of novel explained above can be in any form explained below. Novelette is the first one. It is a short novel that is less than 40,000 words. It is shorter than a novel but longer than a short story. We also have novella. This is any piece of creative writing that is longer than a novelette but shorter than a novel. Like novelette, they often focus on single points of view. Short story. This is a piece of creative writing with a word range between 1,000 and 7,500. It is shortest. It is the shortest form of creative writing. So those are the forms of prose. Now the classification of novels. Classification of novels. Novels can be classified into two. It can generally be classified into two, can be categorized into two forms, considering the content and the plot of the novels. The first one is fiction. Fiction is an imaginary story and a product of the writer's imagination. E.g., Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man is a fiction. That is, the events written there might not have happened anywhere. It's just the imagination of the writer. So we also have non-fiction. Non-fiction is a true life story. It is written about what has happened somewhere and sometimes. The biographical and autobiographical novels are good examples of non-fiction. They are about the life history of somebody. So the first written there should have happened to that person sometime. Now let's go to the characteristics of prose. Characteristics of prose or novel. A prose text can be easily identified from the other genres of literature as a result of the following characteristics. What we are saying here is that how can we categorize, how can we identify that a particular text is a novel? We have three genres of literature. How can we identify a novel from the other genres of literature? The first one is that prose is written in chapters and paragraphs. Prose is written in chapters and paragraphs. A prose text is different from the other genres of literature because of its division into chapters and paragraphs. Chapters is a main division of a book with numbers, while paragraph is a piece of writing consisting of sentences. Another thing you have to consider is the diction. The use of language. Prose text is written in plain language. Remember when we defined prose the other time? Prose text is written in plain language. That is, we understand the message being passed through the sentences in the passage. Compared to poetry that might have hidden meaning apart from the literal meaning, it is written in straightforward, ordinary language. We also have to consider the sentence pattern. If you look at the sentence patterns, the arrangement of the words is orderly and follows the English grammatical rule of SVOA, SVC, SVOO, etc. The sentences are written with due observance of the grammatical rules. This makes prose text to be easily understood than any other genre. Another thing we have to consider is the subject matter. A prose text always has a subject matter. A prose text always has a subject matter. Bayo Adebowale's Lonely Days subject matter is widowhood. That's his widowhood. If you look at some of the texts we are reading, or the prose text we are reading, they must have a subject matter. Now, the next thing here is the point of view. That is the narrative techniques. An author can choose to narrate the events in the novel in different ways. That is why it's imperative for us to discuss this topic. This refers to the ways or techniques used by the author in narrating his story. There are three types of narrative techniques in literature. We have first-person narrative technique, third-person narrative technique, and omniscient narrative technique. First-person narrative technique. The author or the narrator is one of the characters in the story being narrated. He makes use of first-person personal pronouns, I, we, me, myself, us in the narrative. It derives its name from here. It derives its name from the first-person personal pronoun. The next one is third person narrative technique. This also derives its name from here, that is third person personal pronoun. It makes use of third person personal pronouns, it, she, he, they, them, her, him in narrating the story. The author or the narrator is not part of the story. He views it from a distance, that is the narrator, the person that narrating is not part of the event in the novel. So he's seen it from a distance. We also have omniscient narrative technique. Omniscient is an attribute of God Almighty. When we say God is the omniscient, He sees and knows the thoughts of everybody. This technique knows everything about the characters, their thoughts, and their plans. It can also provide the reader with the direct assessment of action, character, and the environment. So that's that is a prose in literature. The types of prose, form of prose, the narrative techniques. Now, let's look at this note. Authors or writers are at liberty to use one, two, or the three types of in the narrative, as we have seen in Unexpected Joy at Dawn, by as Agri and Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. That is, an author is not restricted to one of the narrative techniques. In a novel, the author can choose to use all the types of the narrative techniques. So that is the video for you. So if you are new on this platform, try and click on the subscribe button so that you can be part of this class. You are free to share this video on any social media platform. Like the video, share it, invite your friends and colleagues to join us. If you have any question, do not hesitate to ask your question to the comment section and it will be sent to you. I'm also going to leave the link to my social media platform in the description of this video, so you can link up with me for any discussion. Thank you and God bless. Let's meet in the next class.